Paradise beyond tourism, unveiling the Maldives' economic story. Imagine waking up to the sound of waves gently lapping against wooden stilts, the scent of salt in the air, and an endless horizon of turquoise waters. This is the Maldives, the dream destination, the honeymoon capital, a paradise that seems untouched by reality. But behind this idyllic imagery lies a nation that is constantly balancing on the edge of economic sustainability and environmental vulnerability. The Maldives is more than a picturesque vacation spot. It is a sovereign state with its own complex economic system, facing unique challenges that most of the world never considers. With a population of just over 500,000 spread across nearly 1,200 islands, only about 200 of which are inhabited, the logistics of maintaining a functioning economy are daunting. In this story, we peel back the layers of luxury resorts and tropical brochures to uncover how the Maldivian economy truly operates. What fuels its growth? What threatens its stability? And how is this paradise preparing for an uncertain future? Let's take a closer look at how the Maldives earns, spends, and survives. Tourism, the lifeblood of the Maldives economy. Tourism is not just a sector in the Maldives, it is the engine that powers nearly everything else. It accounts for approximately 28% of GDP directly, but when you include the indirect impact, that figure jumps to nearly 80%. Moreover, over 90% of the Maldives' foreign exchange earnings are tied to tourism. Every dollar spent by a tourist, whether on a resort, a diving trip, or a souvenir, ripples through the economy. The tourism industry started modestly in the 1970s with just 2 resorts. Today, there are over 150 luxury resorts spread across the archipelago, some occupying entire islands. These resorts are often owned by foreign investors, and they operate with a high degree of autonomy, including their own transport and utilities. But this success comes with vulnerabilities. The Maldives is acutely sensitive to global events. When COVID-19 hit in 2020, tourism arrivals dropped by over 67%, causing a severe recession. The government's revenue, which is heavily reliant on tourism taxes and resort leases, plummeted. Recovery has been swift thanks to pent-up demand for travel. But the lesson remains clear: overdependence on a single sector is risky. Additionally, much of the tourism revenue is repatriated abroad, limiting its multiplier effect within the local economy. Meanwhile, local communities often remain on the periphery of this wealth, working in low-wage jobs while facing rising costs of living due to tourism-driven inflation. The government has tried to promote local tourism, encouraging guest houses on inhabited islands. But this segment remains small compared to high-end resorts. Fishing and marine resources, the traditional backbone. Long before tourists arrive, the Maldivian people survive through the bounty of the sea. Fishing, particularly for tuna, remains a vital industry and a key source of employment. It is also the Maldives' second largest export earner after tourism. The Maldives is globally recognized for its sustainable fishing methods, particularly pole and line fishing, which avoids the bycatch associated with industrial techniques. This not only preserves marine biodiversity, but also appeals to environmentally conscious markets, especially in Europe. However, the sector faces challenges. Climate change is altering fish migration patterns. Ocean acidification and warming threaten the coral reefs that support fish populations. Additionally, competition from foreign fishing fleets in the Indian Ocean has increased pressure on local stocks. Efforts are underway to modernize the fishing industry, improving cold chain logistics, upgrading fishing vessels, and diversifying into aquaculture. But scaling these efforts remains difficult in a country where islands are small and far apart, and infrastructure is limited. Fishing also plays a cultural role. It is embedded in daily life, local cuisine, and traditional knowledge. Preserving this sector is not just about economics. It's about maintaining a way of life that has sustained the Maldives for centuries. Import dependency, a fragile balance in a remote nation. The Maldives is almost entirely dependent on imports. From food and fuel to construction materials and consumer goods, nearly everything must be brought in by sea or air. This dependency is both a logistical and economic challenge. The trade deficit is substantial, with imports far outstripping exports. This is typically financed through tourism revenues and foreign aid, but it leaves the economy vulnerable to external shocks. Global price fluctuations, especially in oil and food, have a direct and immediate impact on local inflation. Fuel imports are especially critical. Despite having ample sunlight, the Maldives generates most of its electricity using diesel generators. This makes energy costs high and subjects the country to global oil price volatility. To address this, the government has initiated renewable energy projects, particularly solar installations, with the goal of achieving 30% renewable energy in key islands. However, progress is slow, and scaling such projects across dispersed islands is costly. Food security is another concern. With little arable land, the Maldives relies heavily on imported food. Attempts at hydroponic and vertical farming are growing, but remain small-scale. The COVID-19 pandemic exposed the risks of this dependency, with supply chain disruptions leading to shortages and price hikes. Diversification of suppliers and investment in local production have become national priorities, but they will take time. Infrastructure and development. Building on water. Developing infrastructure in the Maldives is an engineering and financial challenge. With islands scattered across vast ocean distances, connecting people and goods is both expensive and complex. Key projects have transformed daily life and economic activity. The Renewable Bridge, completed in 2018, links the capital Malé with Hulhuel Island, home to the international airport, and Hulhuel, a reclaimed island designed for urban expansion. This has facilitated trade, tourism, and commuting. Hulhuel itself is a bold project, a planned city that aims to house 240,000 people by 2040. It offers modern housing, business centers, and green spaces. The project is part of a strategy to ease congestion in Malé and provide climate-resilient infrastructure. Much of this development is financed through foreign loans, particularly from China and India. While this has accelerated progress, it has also raised concerns about debt sustainability. As of 2022, public debt stood at over 100% of GDP, prompting the government to seek debt restructuring and fiscal reforms. Investing in infrastructure is not just about growth, it is also about survival. Seawalls, elevated buildings, and resilient transportation are necessary to adapt to climate risks. The cost is immense, but the alternative, inaction, would be catastrophic. Climate change, the economic threat rising with the sea. Nowhere is the threat of climate change more immediate than in the Maldives. The country's average elevation is just 1.5 meters above sea level, making it one of the most vulnerable nations on Earth to rising seas. Climate change poses a direct threat to the economy. Coral reefs, which attract tourists and support fisheries, are bleaching due to warmer waters. Beach erosion endangers resorts and infrastructure. Flooding threatens homes and livelihoods. The government has been proactive, pledging to become carbon neutral, investing in renewable energy, and advocating for global climate action. The Maldives has also sought international funding for adaptation projects, arguing that wealthy nations should support vulnerable countries. But funding is limited, and the clock is ticking. Economic planning now includes climate risk assessments, but uncertainty remains high. The threat of climate migration, people being forced to relocate due to rising seas, is real, and it has economic, social, and political implications. Diversification efforts. Can the Maldives rely on more than tourism? Diversification is no longer optional, it is essential. The government aims to reduce dependence on tourism by developing other sectors. Islamic finance is a growing industry, leveraging the country's Muslim identity. Financial services are being expanded to attract regional business. The IT sector is also gaining attention, with digital startups emerging in fintech, e-commerce, and remote services. Education and skill development are key. The Maldives is investing in higher education, vocational training, and digital literacy to prepare its workforce for new industries. Renewable energy offers potential not just for self-sufficiency, but also for export, such as green hydrogen. However, all these initiatives face constraints: limited human resources, geographic challenges, and competition from larger economies. Still, success stories are emerging, and with strategic planning, the Maldives can build a more resilient, diversified economy. A delicate paradise, balancing beauty, economy, and survival. The Maldives is at a crossroads. Its economy, built on the allure of paradise, faces profound challenges: climate change, external shocks, and overdependence on tourism. But within these challenges lie opportunities for reinvention. Balancing short-term needs with long-term resilience is the central challenge. Can the Maldives transform itself into a sustainable, diversified economy while preserving the natural beauty that defines it? This story is not just about the Maldives. It's about how small nations navigate the tides of global change, and how paradise can fight to survive in a world where nothing remains untouched. The future of the Maldives is uncertain, but its determination is not. This tiny nation, floating in a vast ocean, is proving that even the most vulnerable can strive for strength, and that even paradise must adapt to endure.